I never forgot Bali and the amazing culture. Bali is so unique. It is beautiful, and it was a little bit more like expats living here. I like to be able to walk to work. I hate being on the long subways, so there's lots of work to be done, but I can structure it. I can do it from wherever if it's. And then they came to Bali, and yeah, we were all blown away by how beautiful it was.
Open your hands, stand in the light, watch it begin. We're gonna shine.
The first thing I would love to know about you is like your background and how did you end up being here and doing what you do right now, which is cool.
So I used to be a strategy consultant. I did my MBA. I went into strategy consulting. I loved it and learned so much and got to see a lot of the world. I actually finished my MBA in Singapore. So the first time I ever came to Bali was about 10 years ago for scuba diving and then a short weekend surfing. So really short trips, but I never forgot Bali and the amazing culture and just how beautiful the people and the island are. About 2 years ago, I decided to leave corporate and strategy consulting in general. I'd always had ideas of doing different things, maybe in social ventures, nonprofits, startups, just slightly different tracks in life. And I wasn't feeling that the corporate strategy and deal advisory was it just wasn't quite where I wanted to go. And I looked around, I looked at the partners, and that was sort of my next step, was pushing for partner track, and I just didn't see that as where I wanted to be. So I took a leap of faith and I left and had saved up a budget and gave myself time off. I was pretty tired and pretty, feeling some of that corporate burnout. So I did kind of a nomadic life for about a year where I went to different places, reconnected with people that I hadn't had time to spend when you work 80 hours a week. And I had Bali in the back of my mind because there's such a big kind of digital nomad community here, and also I've been back and forth to Southeast Asia in general, and I just feel like it's kind of a soul home for me. I just feel like really connected. But I didn't come right away because I didn't necessarily feel I was ready. I wasn't ready to see if I could really be a digital nomad. So I did a bunch of other things, worked on a bunch of smaller projects, and then towards the end of my year, since I left, things just came together that Bali seemed like the right option. So I came to Bali last January, and I spent 2 months working remotely on developing a new startup and supporting a startup, and finding that I could really structure my days how I wanted them, and that I was surrounded by amazing people, and I really fell in love with it. So I moved to Canada to work on those startups, or I should say back to Canada because I'm from there. But as winter came around and as certain things in personal life kind of aligned, I found myself back in Bali.
Nice. What makes you want to stay here? You could pretty much stay anywhere in the world, right?
Yes.
What you do right now.
I'm very fortunate that kind of the work I've done and the skills I've built and having a Canadian passport means that you can go almost anywhere. It's absolutely a huge privilege. Bali is so unique. It is beautiful, both just physically stunning, and I think that the culture and the people here are so special. There's a community vibe and a culture that I find really wonderful, and that extends into the expats as well. So I find my days in Bali feel expansive. They're long days and there's so much to do, and everybody here, whether you're local or expat generally, you're hustling, right? Everybody's working really hard, but everybody has time to stop and say hello. Everybody within reason looks out for each other in a way that I think we have lost a lot in some of the bigger metropolises in the world, and something that I found more and more draining when I was living in bigger cities. So Bali is this amazing place where you have this local culture that is so special, so kind, everybody has a smile for you. And then it attracts these expats who choose to be here. And I think that there's this power of choosing to be here. Like, everybody is here for a different reason, but we're all here by choice, and we're all here generally, hopefully, contributing to what makes Bali so special. And then being surrounded by people who generally are choosing a slightly different lifestyle or career path, or being a multi-hyphenate where you're doing multiple different things that kind of fulfill you and allow you to live whatever lifestyle you want. I find it really inspiring. So whenever I talk to somebody, I try not to ask the boring questions like, where are you from, what do you do? But even those questions, often they have a really cool story, and it's really inspiring and energizing to hear about what they're doing. And I often come back with I met this person today and now I have this new idea, and maybe I'm going to do this with my life. So I find just in general, that is so beautiful. And on a more personal side, there's a time zone challenge for me, but it kind of forces me to structure my days in a way that really works for me. So I'm a little stricter on getting the sleep I need, which puts me in a better mindset, on making sure I get to the gym, and I'm surrounded by people at training, and I get all those endorphins from training, and all of that makes me more focused and more productive, and I just feel just more inspired and kind of, yeah.
That's great. It's basically what we are trying to do, from your story, we can capture it so others can get inspired, even though if they are not in Bali yet, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be amazing if Bali is special, but if, even when I go back to Canada or back to London, UK, or wherever, I feel like for a while at least, I kind of take the spirit of Bali with me. So I feel like if people can kind of manifest that a little bit in their lives, finding what works for you and making sure that you pause and look at what's around you and take time for other people, that's really positive.
Yeah, that's great, definitely. Okay, next question would be how do you find yourself in Canggu though? Bali is super big, and then you just wanted to live here, and then suddenly boom, Canggu
Yeah, it's funny because Canggu didn't exist the first time. Seminyak was the last kind of development the first time I came. So I started out in Ubud, partly because I knew it was a hub for nomads, and I knew someone who had a place I could rent. So I started there, and I was going through a lot in my life transition, and Ubud's known for being very spiritual, so it felt like a good place, and it definitely was. But I love being by the water. I feel like anytime I'm near the water, even if I don't get to the beach, there's just something about it where I feel really grounded. So I'd come down to visit Canggu and been kind of oh wow, really cool. Then because it's a little bit less touristy, or it was, and it was a little bit more expats living here, for me that had a huge draw because it meant you had a slightly less transient community. You had people, like I said, who are kind of doing all these interesting things, and you can connect with them. And then a big part of it was I found Bali MMA, which is an amazing training place that I love to go. I love martial arts gyms. So I've played rugby for 20 years of my life, and I've done martial arts for on and off, probably 10 years. And there's always a community to be found in either of those sports. So I found the community there, and I really, really loved it, and I love the training. And this year I came back with my partner, who is a pro MMA fighter, who was looking to enhance his training and make a shift. So we looked into his options, and Bali MMA made sense for him. So he came pretty much exclusively to train there, and then I came to do the digital nomad thing.
Amazing. So people cannot mess with you, yeah?
I mean, I do my best.
Alright, cool. So the next would be so I know that let me see. Oh yeah, I know that some people doesn't really suit in the city. Some people suits them, and then some people suits in the village and stuff like that. But what does your personality or the way you do things that makes you suitable living here?
It's funny, I think I really appreciate all of them. So I grew up in the countryside, maybe an hour or so outside of a big city, or out of a capital, which is actually a small city in Canada, Ottawa. But so I grew up with farms around. I worked on a farm. I trained horses. We used to drive into the city every day, so I really hate commuting because I grew up with an hour each way in the car plus traffic. And then I moved into the city, and there's certainly elements about the city. Like when I worked in a regular job, and even now when I'm in Toronto, I like to be able to walk to work. I hate being on the long subways. It's great to have public transport, but it's something that I find, again, like it's just, people are often not considerate, and it's just frustrating and long and takes up a huge part of your day when you're working long hours. So I think for me, like I love elements of the city, and I love, like I feel really at home in kind of the countryside or a smaller village setting because that's where I grew up. And I feel as if Bali and Canggu in particular has kind of the best of everything. So I can situate myself in a place where I can walk, I can have my scooter and be anywhere in 15 minutes. You know, I can go up to Ubud in an hour. So I've got, you know, spiritual and jungle and rice fields up in Ubud and mountains. I've got the beach here, and then I've got, you know, the ability to go to a co-working space and, you know, be, if I need to, I can throw on a suit and look like I'm anywhere in the world and have good internet. So some of the conveniences that you get from the city. So I actually think that's probably a big part of it is I'm comfortable in all of those and I appreciate elements of all of them, but choosing one is hard for me, especially with the work I do where sometimes you need to be in a city. But Bali kind of allows you to be in this tropical paradise vacation setting, have some conveniences that allow you to work and kind of make your own, make it however you, what suits you. You can choose where you go and what environments you're in on a given day, you know.
Great. So more like a freedom to choose, yeah?
Freedom to choose, absolutely.
Yeah, nice. That's amazing. Okay. Next thing would be like, oh yeah, I would love to know more about your like daily routines because like you work remotely. It's just like a normal person wouldn't have the chance to do like that. So
Yes.
you know, so we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I think everyone's digital nomad story is different. The biggest part of mine is with the startup I work with, Patio Interactive. So we're a digital and immersive technology company. We do augmented reality, virtual reality, all kinds of stuff. So we do have a team in Toronto. So I'm very fortunate to be able to work remotely because my role is less client-facing and more leading the team and strategy, financials, and looking at investments and things. It's a 13-hour time difference. So my experience generally means that I've got a period in the morning and a period in the evening where everyone's kind of online at the same time. So I tend to get up at 5 or 6 or 7, depending on the day, and have a few hours where I'll have meetings, phone calls, etc., either with clients or just with my business partner or my team. That's our chance to really connect on things. And then again, at the end of the day, around like 10, 11, 12 at night is another time where we overlap. So I think for some people, they would just like, that seems crazy. But for me, what it means is the middle of my day from probably around 9:30, 10 a.m. until about 8 p.m. I can do whatever I want. So there's lots of work to be done, but I can structure it. I can do it from wherever. If it's, you know, stuff I really need to like go into a working space, then I can do that. Or I can go work from a cafe, or I can work from here in our guest house. And then I can choose what time in the day I want to work out and go to the gym. You know, I can maybe go do my lunch as my nice meal out rather than dinner, catch up with friends. And then if I'm collaborating with people here, then it makes it really easy to set meetings because I'm not juggling those meetings between my other company. So for me, the digital nomad thing really works. There's definitely a dedication, and there's the odd morning or night where I'm maybe not feeling like a 6 a.m. phone call, or I'm struggling to stay awake for 11 p.m. because I got up at 6. But overall, it's helped me create boundaries. I'm somebody who wants to say yes and do everything. And when you only have a few hours here and there, you just have to like set boundaries. You have to set your own deliverables and hold yourself to those, and not always, you know, trade that off for helping everyone else. And actually, for me, that's been a big personal growth.
So the first time you've been to Bali was like when you were in Singapore, yeah?
Yeah.
And then I want to know like what's your first thing like impress you, you know? Wow, okay, this is it, Bali.
So the first time I came to Bali, we stayed down in Sanur. At the time was very, very quiet. And we stayed coordinated through diving. My friends that I was living with in Singapore, my classmates, they were interested in diving, and I had been doing diving for a few years, so I organized for them to come do their PADI, and the diving school organized everything. And so we were on like super cheap trip, and we showed up to some of the most beautiful villas I've ever seen. And for two of my three like friends and flatmates, it was their first trip from arriving in Singapore, and then they came to Bali, and yeah, we were all blown away by how beautiful it was, how friendly and just lovely everyone was. One of my biggest impressions is, I think I mentioned, everybody will stop to say hi. Everybody's interested in telling you about their story and hearing your story, and there's just this beautiful exchange that happens. And for traveling in general, I love it that even with minimal language, you can communicate so much with people. So yeah, I think our first impression is physically beautiful. People were really wonderful, and the food. Food was so good. It was
what
so
food?
good.
Like Western, Balinese?
Oh no, Balinese and Indonesian, because I know there is difference. I mean, I've been in love with satay since satay ayam since the day I arrived. Yeah, we had fresh fish, caught that day. We had nasi goreng, we had nasi campur, we had satay. More recently, I discovered soto ayam. I'm like crazy about it. Just the Balinese and Indonesian food are like so good. And I discovered babi guling.
Oh wow.
Last time I was here. I didn't discover those the first trips. I think we were only a few days, so we didn't discover as much. But when you spend more time here, that's great. You can go and find more local experiences.
Amazing, I love it. I met one, I think he's from Canada too. In China, Harbin, and then like, hey, where you from? And then I said, Indonesia. Oh, can you make me peanut satay sauce?
Oh my god, it's so true.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I've tried to make like proper satay sauce at home? No, I'm convinced the peanuts are different here or something.
Yeah, I need to learn myself how to make that so that if I'm outside, I can make it for other people.
But you know what I really love is even from every restaurant or cart to every cart, it's different. Everyone has their own peanut sauce, everyone has their own sambal, and I love it. Like, I just love it. It's so personal. It's fantastic.
Nice. Okay. This would be the last question. Based on what you do right now, like being a digital nomad and working remotely, what do you wish about Bali in the future so that it can support you to what you do, or it can make you, happier life, or life better?
I mean, what I would wish for Bali is sustainability. So I think Bali is such a beautiful place, and it attracts so many people for obvious reasons. But what I have seen over 10 years is how fast Bali is developing. And while I would wish that everyone could experience Bali, I also see the impact it has on the environment, and I think on the people as well. We see this in gentrification in London and Toronto and all these places where housing becomes unaffordable and all kinds of things that impact locals or make it really difficult to live. So I hope that Bali finds a way to balance, sharing and welcoming people to Bali with a sustainable way of life and sustainable businesses. I do see more and more of that, which makes me so happy, and getting involved with organizations here is one of the things that I love love about being here, is meeting with different organizations, whether that's to do with animal welfare, or to do with environmental, or to do with like education, stuff like that. For me personally, I guess finding a way where I can make Bali a bigger and more permanent part of my life, within the confines of all the like rules and regulations and things like that. I think it's pretty great the way it is, so I wouldn't wish for too much change.
Cool. I forgot about the organization. You joined some non-profit organization, you said, yeah? Can you?
So I'm meeting with some people actually this week. One of the organizations is called Mission Possible, and it's currently a charity.
Wow, we interviewed that girl.
Oh, did you interview Prue?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she wanted to meet me today here, and I was like, I have to do something.
She lives in Ubud, right?
She does, yeah.
Yeah.
She was dropping off some dogs down the road today, and she was like, I'm actually going to be near you. And I was like, that's like the only time I can't shift. Yeah, so Prue and I are going to meet because of my background in business and everything. And I really believe in what she's doing, and it's amazing what she has done as like one person. And I really love the sustainable community aspect. So it's not just setting up a shelter, which is great, but it's not sustainable. So Unleashed Bali is the dog park, cafe, co-working space, home for retired dogs, social venture. So, it's for profit, but all the profits go back and get reinvested in all of the good things around rescue and animal welfare and community education and things like that. And, so we'll see. Hopefully it works out. I think, all the conversations we've had so far have been great, and I would love to be more involved in that. And again, Bali allows me to do part of my time as paid work, afford to live here, and then be able to give back in nonprofit ways.
Okay, thanks.
you.
Yeah.